Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is your host, Sister Nair, with the Heal on Purpose podcast. I am truly excited tonight. We are going to bring you content that is saving lives. Now, y'all know we just made it into the 2023, and I am truly excited to be here with you today. And so I'm going to ask, as you tune in, you share this video, share with as many people as possible, because tonight my guest is going to bring it to you. Now, you know, when you come on the Heal on Purpose, you got to have your pen, your paper, and also get you a cup of tea or get you some coffee, okay? Because tonight we are going to make sure that we fill your cup with some good news. Now, as I get ready to bring on my guest, I want you to know that we have the prestigious Reverend Frederick Shaw of CCHR, Citizens Commission of Human Rights. Tonight, family, we are going to talk about chemical imbalances, the truth, give it to you again, the truth of the brain, and revealing the truth of the brain. And tonight, excuse me for that fumble, but for tonight, I have Mr. Reverend Fred Shaw, who is here with us. Reverend Fred Shaw, I am truly excited. You are here on the Heal on Purpose podcast with your sister, Sister Naira, the repair of the Black family. We are here in the 2023, and you are our very first guest. Welcome, Reverend Frederick Shaw. How are you?
I am doing fine. Thank you so much for opening the new year with this subject. It is very important for our people, especially, but for all people, to understand what is going on in the field of mental health, especially when it comes to psychiatry. And you mentioned it starting up. This is life-saving information. It is the truth being revealed so that people can know the truth and they can be set free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, here on the Heal on Purpose podcast, we specialize, Reverend Fred Shaw, with eradicating generational trauma, drama, limiting beliefs, and self-sabotaging behavior patterns. And as we get into this very needed and wanted and very sensitive topic, you know, I think about, you know, the things that I've had to go through to even have the courage to put on a program like this. And so tonight, I would like for you to definitely tell our audience, who are you and how do you show up in the world? How did you get here to this
Well,
point?
I was born and raised in the Los Angeles area, Compton area, Willowbrook area of Los Angeles County. I had parents that were activists in the community that brought positive programs to help children and stuff. Like we created the first Black run and own Pop Warner football teams. There was a lot that went into that, and it saved. We had group homes for boys that we were almost able to end the gang violence in Los Angeles because we took and hired the leaders of the gangs, gave them a code of conduct and the way they had to act and stuff. They were able to make money, and therefore we were able to have Crips and Bloods work together in the same homes and stuff, because once you start removing the poverty of what is going in the street, people are willing to make money and come together to make money. So these are the type of things. I come from a Black nationalist family. My grandfather and Marcus Garvey were like best friends. People thought they were brothers. I grew up meeting people like Malcolm X and James Baldwin and others who had made such traumatic change in our communities. So, you know, I get it honestly. I don't even know any other way, because that's the way I was raised. I'd bring children home so they could eat food with us. And my father once asked me, he said, "Why do you bring these kids home to eat with us?" I said, "Because they hungry." And he said, "Oh, But I didn't know that we barely had enough to eat ourselves. But it was the spirit in which my parents raised me. They were not the soft, turn the other cheek type people, but they had hearts of gold, and they was willing to stand up, and they would serve anybody that needed help, and they did so, and that was what they were known for.
Wow. Thank you. Look, what I hear from you is you always been on the front line for the salvation of our people and humanity. And thank you for that. Now, as I was looking over your bio, it says that you are the world's leading mental health in the world's leading mental health industry, the watchdog, responsible for helping enact more than 180 worldwide reforms that protect the public from abuses committed under the guise of mental health. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, the thing is that we've had and seen the commercials that say that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Well, it's also a terrible thing to get damaged. It's
Mm,
also a terrible thing to be persuaded to take on personalities and viewpoints that do not fit the culture and the community in which an individual grows up. So when we look at the field of mental health right now, we find, a lot of us have marched and against police abuse and things like that. But the racism that is set in the field of mental health should also be challenged and looked at. And especially when they set the trends a lot of times that people believe in and move on. And then we find out that they seem to not even have common sense, less known, be able to guide the way other people think. So, and that's what I do. I actually got into this because my youngest son, oh man, 30 years ago now, more, maybe 35, he was diagnosed with dyslexia. And
mm,
uh, and they told me that dyslexia was incurable. And so everything was going fine. I was a young parent. I was upset. My child had this deficiency, but they made a mistake. They told me that he needed to see a psychiatrist or a mental health person. And I was like, why? They said they help him with his self-esteem. I said, well, I'm his father. That's my job. It's
mm.
it's it's not somebody else's job, and this is something that we have to start realizing in our community, that we have to love our children to the point that we will provide the stability that they need in life. So I would not turn that over to him. A person told me of a study program. I took him to it, and he would come to me and he would be almost in tears. Dad, I don't want to do it no more. It's too hard. I can't do that. I said, just hang in there for me. Just hang in there for me. And his love for me allowed him to hang in there. And then one day he came home and he said, Dad, I don't think I have it anymore. I said, why? He said, because I know my numbers and my letters, and now I know how it works. So I had the school retest him and said that
Mhm,
I had private therapy and to retest him, and they couldn't tell that he ever had it. And
mm,
so, being a guy that grew up in the street, being a former, at the time, a law enforcement officer, one of the things that you do is ask questions. And
mhm,
so I said, how many children have been diagnosed with something that actually did not have it? It was just the industry itself that did not know how to handle it. And
mhm.
then a person said, well, if you're going to ask that question, let me introduce you to the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. And so right now, for the last six years or so, I have been working for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, but I volunteered for 25 years before I took a position. So
Wow.
that's where I sit on it. But that's how I got to the point.
Wow. And you said something very key as a parent. You said, it was your responsibility. And you didn't just say it, you actually went into action. And it takes courage, family. If you're listening to this, it takes courage to stand up and do something as what Reverend Fred Shaw has done. to take charge, and not only for your child, but basically now you're taking charge for the world when it comes to mental health, especially in the Black community. And now, Reverend Fred Shaw, what I see just on that note, it's a lot of fear, amongst our people, and the lack of knowledge, as scripture says, that we are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And so tonight's program is to raise the awareness that something can be done about this, right? What would you say to that parent, that is in fear or don't have the resources to, stand up and take charge of the mental health of their child or even themselves as it relates to this?
Well, the first lesson before I was ever a minister, and I'm a Christian minister, my father taught me that God helps those who help themselves. I've always took the viewpoint that I pray to God for deliverance and help. I pray to God to help me against my enemies, but then I start whooping my enemies until God show up.
Come on.
We have to be responsible. We have to be accountable. And we must understand, if we're children of God, then we have power. And we cannot turn our power over to another entity or another group or whatever. We are the children of God. And if that is true, then we are God's. And if we are God's, then we should be able to work out the majority of all of our problems. And when we can't, because we've taken the steps that we need to move forward, then we wait on God to help. But we must take action first. And that's where I think I've been blessed by God, because I will always take the action. I will always say what is true, regardless of the consequences. And if we be people like that, if our people would do that, then nobody could stop us.
Speak the truth, regardless to whom or what. Absolutely. And so with that being said, tonight, this program, family, as you tune in, is a program of truth, right? And let me get off this Mr. Reverend Frederick Shaw, we're going to talk about chemical imbalances, the truth of the brain being revealed. I'm ready for that subject title. I don't even know how to question you as such, but I do know that so many people are being diagnosed with these different mental illnesses, and they're saying that it's chemical imbalances. Can you speak into that, please?
Well, absolutely. First, I want to refer to a study that was done by scientists at the University College of London. They reviewed 17 major studies that were published over several decades. So this wasn't something that just showed up. This was studies that had already been in existence in accordance with also the studies that have come recently. And what they found was there was no evidence to support the chemical imbalance of the brain theory. Now, that is a very interesting thing, because all of these years they've been promoting. They even went on television and started showing sketches and film of the lights going off in the brain to show how the brain was malfunctioning and all of this type of stuff. And then after they took the studies, not one, not two, not three, but 17 major studies over several decades to come up with no evidence to support the chemical imbalance of the brain theory. So when they try to intellectually woo us with their medical terms and stuff, and they needed more or less serotonin and all of that, there is no connection. There's nothing to prove serotonin causes depression.
Wow.
So they have made $15.6 billion a year on fraudulent advertisement.
Wait, hold that thought right there. I need the listening audience to catch this. We're going to put that on replay, on repeat. When you say they try to intellectually woo us, okay, family, I hope y'all got that. How much did they make on fraudulent advertisement?
They made 15.6 billion a year, not million,
Wow.
billion a year on the sale of those drugs. So
Wow.
what I want the audience to understand, this is not about people, it's about boardrooms. It is about the people who make the money. It's not about me and you. Me and you are expendable. They can give us a drug. You know, these drugs, some of these drugs cause children to just drop dead. Just suddenly riding the bicycle, boom, he's gone. Make children suicide. They make people commit homicide. Because a suicide, we must understand, is just a homicide done to ourselves.
Wait, hold that thought. A suicide is just a homicide done to ourselves. My God.
That's all it is. So the thing is, and this is why mental health people cannot defeat me in debates. I've debated them from Morehouse to UC Irvine to Harvard professors. I got the same record as Mayweather. And the reason is, when I need to rock them, I ask them a question they cannot answer. What can be wrong with a child that we would give him the death sentence by giving him drugs that can cause him to commit suicide or drop dead suddenly?
My God. And we are seeing a lot of that. We are seeing a lot of children dropping dead, and a severe increase of attempted suicides and suicide in the Black community. And I deal with people every day, and parents are really afraid. They don't know what to say to their children. They don't know what not to say to their children. And so, yes, if you can speak into that.
Well, it says my people perish for lack of knowledge. And because of the fact that we don't have the educational aspects of what's going on in the field of mental health, or even in medicine, period. I hate to attack the pharmaceuticals on all medicines, because some medicines keep the body alive. Some medicines drop the sugar levels. Some medicines can drop the high blood pressure. So I'm not attacking the industry as a whole. I'm talking about it when it comes to these psychiatric medications and the fraudulent aspects of it. For example, you hear, when it comes to kids, you hear two major drugs, Ritalin and Adderall. But the truth of the matter is, Ritalin is basically the same drug as cocaine. And I asked everybody to look it up for themselves. Don't just believe me. Research it. And Adderall is the same as meth. So we are giving kids basically cocaine and meth to handle attention deficit disorder. And, and that's connected to that old theory that, when you use cocaine, you studied better and you drove better and all of that stuff. All that stuff has no proof. Right now, they come back with that same methodology, but they're putting magic mushrooms and LSD as a possible cure for mental illness. How can that even be?
Wow.
I used to arrest people for that. People be using LSD, people use magic mushroom. We were supposed to arrest them. So now all of a sudden they're the cure for mental illness? Money.
Right, absolutely. And so, as you was talking about the chemical imbalances and that there's no scientific fact, can you speak on the point that there's no blood test to even identify, like, how do they come up with these diagnoses without a blood test?
Well, but first of all, you got to understand, that most of these, the Bible of all of these drugs and mental illnesses, mainly the mental illness, is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. But the Diagnostic Statistical Manual can be considered a fraudulent book in itself. How do you have a Diagnostic Statistical Manual and no statistics in it? What they have is they have numbers, which are billing codes, so that the people can get paid when they have these diagnoses. But there's no validity to it. There's nothing to show that it works. In fact, everything that goes in that book is based off of a vote in their conventions. A show of hands. It's not based on clinical trials. It's not based on sound research. It is based on it. So let's say that me and you were in front of an audience of about 20 people, and let's say 9 of them wore glasses, and I was a therapist. I could go to the convention and say, I've noticed among my patients that many of them wear glasses, and they seem to have secret lives. And so these people suffer from Clark Kent, Kyra Kent syndrome, because they're not who they appear to be. And you know that Clark Kent was Superman and Kyra Kent is Supergirl or Superwoman. But if somebody says, oh, I've had that in my practice, where people, they had a different personality with the glasses on than when they took them off. And then everybody raised their hand and they could vote that in.
Wow.
As ridiculous as that is, if you make it sound right and you can get some confirmation, it can be voted in, even though it's not based on any scientific proof at all.
Wow. Wow. So you're saying most of our people that's walking around that have been diagnosed and they are on these medications is by vote? It's a voted,
yeah,
it's a voted methodology.
It is by vote. And let me just say this to you. When we see people walking around who are
Okay, we lost you, Fred.
Yeah. Am I back? Okay.
Yes.
When we see people who appear to be mentally ill, we got to ask, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So did the person, like I know people who, mom died or whatever, and they were suffering through it. I know because I did that when my father died. And so then they get put on a psychiatric drug. Now they went on the drug because mom had died, which the sadness was the appropriate reaction for what happened to mom. But then now you get labeled with this depression because you have profound sadness. And then they give you a psychiatric drug. The next thing you know, you looking up and now you are hearing voices. And then they give you another drug to handle you hearing voices. And then you're thinking of committing suicide. And then then you look up and find adults and children with numerous drugs that they're taking. You got kids 7 to 9 years old taking 6, 7 drugs.
This is true. This is true.
So that's what we got to do. What came first? Was he really mentally ill, or did the drugs that they gave him for mental illness help perpetuate that? Where he was mentally ill. How many of us would love to get paid for creating a problem that only we can fix?
My God, family. I hope y'all listening to this. We definitely want this to be an open discussion. So if you have any questions, please send in your questions so that we can get your questions answered. All right. We are talking about chemical imbalances of the brain, the truth revealed. How does mental health show up in the Black community. So-called mental illness is in the Black community. And Reverend Fred Shaw, I want to ask you about our youth, in particular, younger Black boys in school. When they are diagnosed, or they are considered or labeled bad, and the first thing that they do is they try to get the parents on medication. Get the parents to give the children medication. How is the psychiatry industry working with the school system today?
Anytime you pay somebody to provide a service, they will find a way to create the conditions that they need to service. So let's say you look at Black kids and they're having difficulty learning in school.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of teaching them properly, they would rather label them because the school gets more money. And so once you label the child, then you have basically destroyed his incentive to be excellent in that field. To give you an example, once you label a child as mentally ill, then the parents take on the viewpoint where he can't do any better because he has a learning disorder or a mental disability. The teacher don't have to teach because this kid has mental disability. The child himself, who generally, from our observations and the ones we've dealt with, know there's nothing wrong with them, but they do what most kids do. They get to escape doing their homework and all that stuff because they have this disability. So everybody benefits. People don't have to take responsibility to make sure that that child learns. Now, when my kid was given dyslexia diagnosis, because I did not agree, and I worked with him, my child overcame a lot of those things. So we can't just take these people who we believe to be educators' word, and we'll find the same thing in other fields of medicine, and I don't want to get into the COVID thing, but it's real interesting in New York. They have passed a ruling that everybody who was fired because they didn't take the shot got to be rehired and given back pay. Well, why can they do that? Because in Los Angeles, a judge ruled that the people who work for the Los Angeles Unified School District can sue the district because the drug was experimental.
Mm-hmm.
If it's experimental, you're not supposed to be able to make people take it. See, so I'm just showing you how the mentality that may have, I won't accuse them all out, originated from psychiatry, is invading other fields of the medical profession. I went to the hospital because I had extreme pain. I have neuropathy, and the pain, if you ever had pain, it is something. And I went to the emergency, but I told them, do not give me a psychiatric drug. Do not give me anti-seizure medication. I just want something that handles pain. The doctor folded her arms and said, what I'm going to give you is none of that. What I'm going to give you is for neuropathy. Well, we went to the CCHR database and we found that it's basically a psych drug.
Wow.
Now, where pain pills and all of that have the psych drug property in it. So I'll give you an example, and then we, not to be too long. So
take your time.
I had a bad shoulder. I went to the doctor. They had me do some things, and they decided I need to have a shot to relieve the pain. So I'm waiting, and I decide, because it's taking them so long, I look the drug up. One of the side effects of the drug is confusion. So they would wait 20 minutes, and if I show no signs, they would let me go on my own. But what if while I'm driving down the freeway, because it must have been about 9 miles or so, what if I got confused on where I'm going? If I was lucky enough to pull over to the road, now I'm trying to figure out where was I headed? Where do I live? Now highway patrolman pulls up. Hey, sir, you okay? Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to get home. Oh, you don't know where you live? I know where I live, but I can't think of it. Well, he's going to assume I can't care for myself or others. If I'm exhibiting those type of symptoms, then I'm a danger to other people on the road, which is what I would have thought when I was a law enforcement officer. So then he will take you to a hospital where you will see people from the mental institutions. And now all you did was took a shot, and now you got a history of being mentally ill. And that sets you up to be taken advantage by a lot of different agencies and entities, and people can stop from giving you a job, and people can label you for the rest of your life. And all of these things can go on when all I did was had a bad shoulder and took a shot that they gave me. This is where, now I'm not telling people, and far from it, just like I said, I'm not attacking the pharmaceutical on everything, and I don't want us attacking medicine on everything.
Right.
But the thing is that we have to be alert. They say the price of freedom is constant alert and a constant willingness to fight back.
Teach now.
So that's what we have to do. Now, sometimes you will make decisions on the best thing. If they say, if you take this drug, you can live a quality life for the next 10 years, but if you don't, you will die in 6 to 9 months, then I'm going to take the drug. But I just want people to know that you got to know the good and the bad of the drug before you make that decision. Because I might say if the drug will cause me to have paralysis and drool at the mouth, maybe I don't want to live in that condition.
Absolutely.
So I should be able to have a choice. And that's what I want us to be able to do.
Absolutely. And many of our people don't know that they have a choice. So there's a freedom in knowing that, hey, I do have a choice, especially when it comes to our youth and our children, as it relates to getting on these drugs and, just dealing with the psychiatry industry in general. Many of us look at the industry as a source point of help and not understanding that is set up to hurt. So here's a question I have, just dealing with eugenics and the racist history of eugenics of the psychiatry, from whipping to brain surgery, electric shock, and mind-altering drugs in the African American communities that we have been targeted. So can you touch on that?
Well, yeah, let's start kind of from the beginning of
Okay.
psychiatry with Dr. Benjamin Rush. Dr. Rush was one of the foremost leading medical people of his time. Dr. Rush goes down having signed, I believe it was the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights, one of those. I think the Bill of Rights. He goes down as an abolitionist. But then we see the conflict in the fact that he also owned slaves. He also came up with the word negritude that said that Black people's skin was dark because they had a disease akin to leprosy, and that white people should stay away from Black people. And the only way to know if a Black person was cured or sane is if he turned white. So now this is the origin of. So then now what we're looking at is that he set the stage, and we saw this with the light skin, dark skin, all of this stuff that came out of that. And then we moved up into slavery time, where they had a word called drapetomania. Drapetomania meant runaway slave, or a person who was crazy, a slave that was crazy. Because if you ran away from your master, this is how much science is in mental health. If you ran away from your master, you were considered mentally ill. Symptoms of illness was talking back, refusing to work, and all of those types of things. See, and that was even put into mental health then. All right. So we're looking at a system that came on through with the eugenics, where in the 50s, the American Psychological Association said Blacks, Native Americans, and Mexicans should never be allowed to have children.
Wow.
I think that's around the same time Planned Parenthood came in.
Come on now.
And then next thing you know, we are here in 2023, and we've had something like 23 million abortions.
Teach.
It's like half of what our population is. So we would be another third further. We'd have, if all of them lived, and they all wouldn't have, but we'd have had, instead of 40 million Black people, we'd have maybe 55 million Black people. I'm not taking a position, so I don't want none of the sisters saying, oh, and I don't want to guilt trip anybody. I'm just giving facts. Right. People can take it alone, but I'm just giving the facts of Planned Parenthood was designed to stop the Black population from growing. And if we're not careful, every time we take on the mind of someone other than our own, in the Bible, Adam and Eve hid from God when he was walking through the garden and looking for him. And they told him, we hid because we were naked.
That's right.
And God said, who told you?
That's right.
Whose mind you take on other than the one I have given you?
Teach.
So when we take on the minds of other people without true investigation, that's the only reason they don't want us to learn. The reason, and I'm not trying to talk racism, but the reason in slavery that a white person could be put to death for teaching a Black person how to read is because they never wanted you to have the ability to know for yourself.
That's right. That's right.
So, these are the things.
We're still perpetuating that, because now we have the ability to read, but we're so ingrained into us that we don't want to read when you come talk about the masses of our people. And even just tuning in or tapping into this level of knowledge it takes a lot of confront, right? The ability to just be present with this, because we are being dumbed down. It's easier to take a pill than to swallow the truth.
Well, people like yourself and me and others you and I know and stuff who have been taught to think for themselves. See, if somebody tells you something and then somebody else tells you something, that's when education comes in, because you're supposed to be able to decipher who's being correct and who's not. You should be able to investigate. That's what education allows you to do. We think education is being able to recite words and regurgitate what somebody else has told us. That is not education. Is knowing a subject well enough that you can challenge that subject. See, you can criticize that subject. If somebody truly knows the theory of relativity, they can challenge Einstein's theory and so forth. That's what we're missing. A minister who can't challenge the Bible don't know the Bible. See, but we take it all in, and we take other people's truths when all those people were supposed to do was study it themselves. So when they told me in a debate, when When the psychiatrists say, what degree do you have in mental health? I stood up and say, I don't have one. He said, well, I have a PhD. And I said, but I have a PhD too. He said, what do you mean? I have a PhD. While you were studying this stuff up in the rooms where you weren't even involved with people, I was in the streets doing
Come
this.
on. Teach.
So I know what my people feel. See, when I got challenged, when I was asked, I wasn't challenged, I was sitting at a table and a psychiatrist was talking about at-risk youth. I never said a word. And then he asked me, he said, well, what do you think of what I'm saying? I said, I think you don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, well, what makes it, what you more expert than me? I said, because you don't understand that in the inner city, every kid is at risk. The kid who carries a knife because they keep bullying him on the way to school is at risk. The kid that gets shot on the bus stop when one gang shoots on another is at risk. I say, so all of our children are at risk. If we don't get proper educations in our school system, then we are at risk of never being able to make the money we need to make so our children can go to the better schools and things like that. So that puts our kids at risk. The people at the table start nodding their heads like, oh, who is this guy? Oh. See, we have to be able to challenge. Because I study words, when I was introduced to one of the top guys in Ebonics, and he was telling me about Ebonics, he was talking to a whole group. And I said, well, how is it possible that you and everybody I've promoting that speak the King's English perfectly? So is there some special Negro that understand better than another Negro? How does this work? I'm just trying to tell you, and I'm not making fun of anybody or them or trying to promote how smart I am. I just want us to know why we need to be educated.
That's right.
So we challenge them.
That's right.
It's not to promote me. This is for the parent who's going to tell his kid, this is why you need to be educated. That's what this is about.
That's right. That's right. You know, I love the reality that what I'm getting from you, what I'm perceiving is we can't have any emotional attachments. We got to be willing. Emotional attachments meaning, okay, well, you know, I gotta feel sorry for my baby because this is what the doctor said, right? No, we got to be willing to step up on the plate of truth to be able to save our community and make it a decent and better place to live. And I didn't want to, and thank you, you said a lot. I do want to make sure I touch on this, the electric shocks. Is that still happening up to this point?
Not only is it still happening, it's happening to children from 0 to 5 years of age.
Wait, say that one more time. You mean 0 to 5?
I said 0 to 5, but I'm going to tell you something worse than that. They are also electroshocking children before they're born.
What?
Now, you say, how did you do that? Because when they administer electric shock to the mother who is pregnant, the child gets shocked too.
That's right now. How to give birth
to
a
child is in the mother's womb. So whatever you do, they tell a mother, now listen to how they do. They tell a mother not to smoke and drink when she's pregnant, but they will electroshock her. And then they say, oh, because we only do it in cases of severe depression. Well, why don't you have some vitamins or something that you can give a mother that's going through some hormonal changes? Because that's all you're looking at.
That's right.
So you should be giving her vitamins. You should be making sure she rests. And you should be monitoring her if she has any complication. That just seems like the sensible thing to do, but I opened up. Sometime in the field of the mind, those people don't have common sense. So you would electroshock a woman who is pregnant Anybody that does that, now I'm not speaking for CCHR right now. I'm speaking from Fred Shaw. Anybody that do that is a criminal organization. I said it. Anybody that don't like it, they can debate me on your show. Any psychiatrist want to come on your show, then I will stand there. Because I'm not afraid of these people, because I know that they live in lies. So since they live in lies, and lies can't stand before the truth, I have no reason to fear them.
That's right.
That's why I'm undefeated in debating. Oh, in fact,
hold on. I'll keep on my battery going there. You can keep on. I have to plug up my computer.
Oh, okay. But keep that's on. Why they haven't debated me in over 15 years.
Wow.
That's what's happening. So I just want to know this, because the field of mental health has not proven to make things better. The homeless population has exploded. Veterans are killing themselves at 20 or more a day. Children are at their lowest ever and being educated. So why are they getting all this money? Every time the president signs a bill, he has a mental health component with it, because it is not designed to make you smarter. If it was to make you smarter, then your IQ would rise, you would think faster, you would think clearer, but that ain't what's happening. They dumb you down. So, the thing is at the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, and I'm not gonna act like I'm just born smarter than them. People can go on their website and Google Citizens Commission on Human Rights, or just cchrint.org, and they can get all the information I speak on right there.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask my husband, who is engineering this program. I think he's on to write that in the chat, because we definitely want people to be able to go and, get the information that you're telling us, because we believe in actual facts, right? And we want people to have the knowledge for themselves, to be able to empower yourself and empower your community, because mental health is the button in the Black community, and we are being identified as having so many mental illnesses. I mean, you can't have a conversation in the run of a day without somebody talking about mental health. And so our goal here with the Repair of the Black Family Heal on Purpose podcast is to help to raise the awareness and provide alternative solutions to mental health. And as I hear you talk about the chemical imbalances, the racism in the mental health field, I think back to when I was a little girl, Reverend Fred, and I watched my dad, who was a track star, who got hurt at the age of 13, and he was hooked, basically, to make a long story short, throughout his life, he was hooked onto prescription medications. And I just recently learned, out of ignorance, I didn't know, but he was on drugs and alcohol, but I recently learned that he was suffering from so-called mental illnesses. The truth of the matter of it is, he was in so much pain that he couldn't cope with life. But he kept being diagnosed, and ended up getting hooked on different types of drugs, including psych medication. And so my passion is to raise the awareness to save a life. And so I thank you for bringing forth the information. What else would you like the listening audience to know in this very vital topic that we're having tonight?
Well, the first thing I want to do is give out my email.
Yes.
And then, so if anybody wants to contact me personally, it's fshawjr@yahoo.com. F-Shaw.
We're going to put that up on the screen. I have my husband to put it up on the screen. You said F. Shaw.
Okay. F. Shaw jr@yahoo.com. And then in the subject line, they can put Heal on Purpose, or they can put your name, and I'll know where it came from. And I'll get back with them as soon as I can. I'll direct them. I will give advice on some, because a lot of times we have children. The one thing that they have to understand about mental illness is that I looked at my behavior after I gave up my dream of being a basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had gotten married. I had kids, and I had a new kid. And a lot of the NBA players and college all-stars and stuff were playing a game. And a girl that worked with me, she said, "I hear how good you are. Why don't you go out there and play with them?" And I went out there, and a guy who was one of the NBA players' agent said, "You need to try out for the Lakers." But I couldn't, because I had kids here. I was married. I just bought a house, and I had to take care of business. But it changed my viewpoint, because whenever you give up on your goal or your purpose, something that you were chasing, it affects you.
Yes.
So all you have to do is know that for the circumstances and situation where you were in, you did the right thing.
That's right. That's right. We lost you,
I want
Fred.
people to know
Mm-hmm.
that
Go ahead.
we can handle a lot of these mental illnesses. We can handle a lot of the situations in our life. We have to use the word that is very interesting, confront, which means to face something comfortably. And when you do that, you will find out that a lot of these things that affect you, when you analyze it, break it down, and see what decisions and choices you made. And life doesn't guarantee you get to do what you want to do, but it do guarantee you can pursue what you want to pursue. So when we fail at it, sometimes it causes us to have regrets, resentments, and things like that. And a therapist will label it mental illness, because that's how he makes his money.
Come on now. Say that one part again. A therapist will label it as mental illnesses because that's how they get their money. Mm.
Yeah, because if the book is a fraud that they use for diagnosing, if there's no chemical imbalance of the brain, then what are they basing what they do on? So, you know, and that's what I would leave the audience with. And I want to also say, I want to thank you for supporting this cause. People don't realize how important and how dangerous the field of mental health is, especially in the way they're doing it now. We just saw with COVID where they made it mandatory that people take the shot. How long before it's mandatory that you get checked out, mental health screening and things like that? There's no way to predict the behavior of the whole society. You have to do that on an individual basis. So why would you and I be scanned or looked at for mental illness because a person across the world shot somebody? It's like, that's like everything equals everything. Mental illness over here, it got to be mental illness over there. No, give people the opportunity to be successful in life. Take the people like the homeless and give them opportunities. Break them up into groups. Do the working homeless, then do the willing homeless, then have all of the hopeless homeless go get medical examinations to determine if there's an underlying cause for their thing, like thyroids and urinary tracts and these type of things. You can't tell the difference between a person who is mentally ill babbling to themselves and a person who have a brain tumor if you don't do a CAT scan.
That's
You
right.
know, you don't know the difference between depression and anemia if you haven't done blood work.
That's right.
So, people can be labeled with things. The thyroid has been known to cause what looks like mental illness.
That's right.
So is urinary tract, especially in women, do that. So how many people would come off to the street of the hopeless homeless if you found there was an underlying cause causing them to act that way? So let's be responsible. Let's do real medicine. Let's make sure that people get what they need and not what you want us to have. And then that way we can make a difference in this world, and maybe we can handle the homeless population, but rewarding everybody that's homeless to live better than people who are out here every day, that is not the solution. What it will do is create more homeless from those who are struggling. So then they can become homeless and then get housing. They can get medical. They can get all the things they need. So I don't want to toot the whistle too long, but I just want us to understand that this has to come to our hands.
Absolutely. And I'm very excited and I'm grateful and I'm very humbled that you would just share space with me tonight to raise the awareness so that we can take charge of our community and all temporal property in view to be, one of the watchdogs, right? To help our people in humanity to wake up. We look 2023 is the wake up season. And I say it's to count me in. Look, count me in doing something that's going to make a difference versus counting me out. And so I hope that my audience will feel the same. And I definitely will highly encourage that everyone, whether you're listening to it live right now, or you go back and watch the replay, or you're on the podcast, take advantage and seize the moment to work with Reverend Fred Shaw. He is a leader as it relates to the mental health in our communities. And he's on the front line. And look, he said he got a record better than Mayweather when it comes to debating about the truth of the mental health industry. And that's all I have to say. I do want to put that website up. If my husband can put it up, could you repeat that website of the Citizens Commission?
Sure. Yeah, they can either Google Citizens Commission on Human Rights or CCHRINT.org.
Awesome. And again, you can email him at fshawjr@yahoo.com. Put on their Heal on Purpose podcast or Sister Naira so that he would know how you came in communication or contact with the information. If you have a family member that is suffering from any type of so-called mental illness, or you have any questions as to how to help your family or how to help someone or to get more information, definitely want you to get in contact with Fred Shaw, and he can point you in the right direction. Okay. And so with that being said, Mr. Shaw, if you want to just hold on for a second and let me do my closing announcements. Once again, this has been another great program with the Heal on Purpose podcast with Sister Naira, hosted by the Repair of the Black Family. All 2023, we are bringing you content that is saving lives. Okay. So if you are interested in being in the knowingness, then you definitely want to stay connected with the Heal on Purpose podcast. If you are listening via YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you are listening via podcast, go ahead and like and subscribe to the podcast so that you can be notified. And if you are watching via Facebook, go ahead and share this particular live so that we can get more people in the knowingness and being able and willing to confront, willing to experience, and to be able to do something about the knowledge that we have received today. So once again, it's 2023, y'all. I have my group coaching coming up January 7th. If you are ready to be coached to receive alternative solutions to mental health, then you definitely want to be coached by Sister Naira starting January 7th at 7 o'clock p.m. I have my power-filled coaching program, $49.99. It is not too late to be a part of the coaching program. In addition to that, we have the Ignition Transformational Life Coaching Retreats happening all 2023. Thank you, Sister Tamika. I'm glad you enjoyed the show. Happening all 2023, March 17th through the 23rd. Guess what, family? We're going to Belize. Okay, so we're going to take you out the environment so that you can heal on purpose on the beautiful island of Belize. If you are ready to eradicate generational trauma, dramas, limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging behavior patterns to heal on purpose, then this retreat is for you. And by the way, you traveling with Sister Naira and I get results. That's March 17th through the 23rd. We're now taking deposits, okay? is $500 to get yourself in beliefs with Sister Naira up close and personal. And I'm going to help you deal with that mind, okay? You won't have to go to the psychiatry industry because you got Sister Naira. In addition to that, we are excited because the next retreat is going back to the motherland. We're going to Egypt, June 2nd through the 8th. Now, I just want to tell you all, we are taking the deposits, but these retreats, they will sell out. You do not want to sit back and wait and say, okay, I'm going to do it. Do what you got to do for yourself now. Count yourself in. Don't count yourself out. And if you do not have a passport, whether you're going on this retreat or not, go ahead and get your passports. Get your passports today. I truly believe that when you get a passport, it opens up the world. If you want to eradicate a limiting belief, then the passport needs to be in your hand. Last but not least, we have our famous Heal on Purpose t-shirts. Wear your affirmations on your chest all 2023. Go ahead and go to the website, www.repairoftheblackfamily.com. Order your t-shirt today so that you can continue to wear your affirmations on your chest. If you have not shopped with your sister, go to www.repairoftheblackfamily.com. Check out all of our products and services. We are here to serve you. Thank you for listening. This is your sister and your host, Sister Naira Muhammad, your transformational life coach and retreat leader. All right. Oh, wait. I can't close out. You got to get my book. Hold up. Put the book up. Repair of the Black Family Anthology. Come on, y'all. You got to get my book. Go to Amazon right now or to www.repairoftheblackfamily.com. Get your book today. This is the healing balm for the Black family and all of humanity. You have 33 powerful authors coming together, giving you the story, the lessons learned, and actually steps to take to apply the healing balm to your family. You do not want to go this year without having this book. So go ahead today, get your book. You can get it from Amazon or my website. Thank you all so very much. I love y'all for real. This is your host, Sister Naira. Peace and love.